When we map the intellectual elite of medieval Islam, the centers are usually predictable: Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo. East Africa is routinely omitted from that cartography, assumed to be an intellectual periphery. But if you stood in Mamluk Cairo in 1415, the intellectual reality of the era looked different than those standard assumptions suggest. Inside the courtyard of the Al-Azhar Mosque, the premier institution of Islamic learning, there were exactly 4 recognized student fraternities. One of them was reserved exclusively for scholars originating from the Somali coast. This was the Riwāq al-Zayāliʿa, a structured, formally funded living quarter embedded directly within the administrative framework of the Egyptian capital. Among this community emerges the figure of Sheikh Ahmad bin Ali al-Zayli. He operated here not as a visiting student, but as a recognized master of the Arabic linguistic sciences. Evidence like this places the Somali coast directly into the core of the medieval Islamic curriculum, showing that scholars from the Horn of Africa were central to the transmission of knowledge in Cairo. To support an academic exodus, a society needs material wealth. That wealth flowed through the medieval port city of Zayla on the Somali coast. This map traces the global reach of the city's diplomatic and commercial ties. The official records of Ming Dynasty China document fleets commanded by Zhang He navigating across the Indian Ocean to formally interact with this specific coastal polity. Zayla operated as a critical node in a massive commercial network, integrating South Asia, the Persian Gulf, and the Red Sea. The profits from these maritime routes provided the resources required for an educated class to undertake long, expensive journeys northward. The volume of Indian Ocean trade financed the social mobility of the region. The global merchants of Zayla paid for the minds that would soon populate Cairo's most prestigious academies. When these scholars arrived in Mamluk Cairo, they stepped into an intensely competitive, high-stakes intellectual arena carved out of stone. We have precise documentary proof of their permanence. In 1436, a high-ranking Mamluk emir named Jawhar al-Lala established a formal legal endowment known as a waqf. The text of this legal deed explicitly mandated annual financial support and housing for the people of Zayla living as permanent residents, or mujawirun, inside the Al-Azhar Mosque. While some 20th century historians omitted East Africans from their studies of Cairene scholarly communities, primary Mamluk observers like al-Mawrizi recorded the Zayāliʿa clearly and consistently. They were fully embedded into the capital's civic infrastructure. The Zayāliʿa held an endowed, legally protected space at the highest tier of Islamic education. Within that endowed space, Sheikh Ahmad bin Ali al-Zayla'i focused his career entirely on the mechanics of language. He is recorded in the biographical tradition as a Nahwi. This title indicates a highly specialized training in the intricate rules of Arabic syntax and morphology. This graphic illustrates the hierarchy of Islamic higher education. Syntax and morphology form the absolute prerequisite base. A scholar could not advance to the upper tiers of Quranic exegesis or legal jurisprudence without first mastering these linguistic sciences. Teaching at this level in Cairo required surviving a rigorous peer-driven culture. Scholars fought for recognition by dissecting canonical texts and authoring exhaustive commentaries. Somali scholars carved out a niche in this system. They ran elite grammar circles and produced complex written treatises on syntax that circulated among the international student body. These scholars reached a level of mastery that allowed them to teach the foundational rules of Arabic to students from across the Islamic world, including native speakers. Even with the institutional reality proven, certain details about Ahmad bin Ali remain out of reach. His dates of birth and death are unconfirmed. These gaps function as specific coordinates for modern researchers, pointing directly to the archives where the next phase of discovery remains hidden. The hunt is currently focused on unexamined, centuries-old manuscripts, specifically biographical dictionaries like the Qiladat al-Nakh, wading deep inside manuscript collections of Cairo and Istanbul. This historical silence represents an active frontier. It requires modern researchers to relentlessly dig through neglected archives to recover the figures lost to time. Over the following centuries, as the East African scholarly network expanded, the specific Zayla'i designation gradually transitioned into the wider Jabarti identity, but the core tradition remained intact. From medieval figures like Ahmad bin Ali to 19th-century linguists, Somali scholars maintained a continuous engagement with the Arabic linguistic sciences. The intellectual footprint they left behind in Cairo confirms the Somali coast was not a periphery, but a vital center of the global intellectual record.